uh, energy transfer equation. See, when you look at this Euler's energy transfer equation with respect to the turbo machine, what does it speak of? It speaks of the energy, what is maybe from the fluid to the rotor or from the rotor to the fluid. So that's how the energy transfer takes place. And it speaks of what are the types of energies which are available when the fluid is flowing. Okay. So when we speak of this Euler's equation, we always go with what is called as control volume. That means we go with the Eulerian kind of an approach between the blade passages. So that means if I have two blades like this, fine. So I'm going to consider this volume. I'm going to consider the volume of the fluid flowing in between the two blades. Okay. So on one side I'll be having the pressure side and other side I'll be having the suction side. Okay. When the fluid is flowing, I speak of what is the amount of mass flow rate, because the fluid or all the fluid I am trying to deal with in case of turbo machine, they are all real in nature and they will be having certain amount of viscosity, and there will be a little bit of density changes also if there is a incompressible fluid, and if it is an incompressible fluid, density is almost similar or density may remains constant. But whatever it may be, if I am dealing with incompressible fluids, discharge becomes significant for me, discharge. So then otherwise, if it is a compressible fluid, then I am going to get the mass flow rate. Okay. Now, as already we have discussed, we we have the absolute velocity, which is very important. That is absolute velocity, the fluid with which fluid enters the turbine or rotor, if it's a turbine, or it is a velocity with which fluid goes out, or maybe out of your blade, or maybe to the blade. This maybe it's always in the circumferential direction, and it is uniform, maybe from vein to vein or blade to blade. So what I have is, actually you can just look at it. I have put a simple sketch for you to understand. So I do have a rotor with hub as inside. So this is R1, this is the hub, and the the higher one is the tip actually. So this is the hub and that is the tip. So when we look at this particular kind of a thing, hub to tip, fluid is always will flow from hub to tip. Let's assume some it goes from hub to tip. So I can draw the components of velocity at inlet and exit. At inlet and exit. Say for example, if I draw at the inlet, so that we call it as, at the inlet we call it as, maybe we can call the low pressure side, or at the inlet. Let me call this as inlet or low pressure side. Then at the outlet, so high pressure side, or we can call that as the outlet. So inlet and outlet, what we call. Now at the inlet, so I am showing the blue color one, that is your absolute velocity. So if I try to show it here, so this is my absolute velocity v. Fine. Now if it is making an angle of alpha, that means I can resolve this into one horizontal component, fine, which is VW1, and I can have the your vertical component which is in the flow direction VF1. That's what we are trying to do. So the absolute velocity is resolved into two components, one in the tangential direction, that is VW, that is our world direction, and other one is in the radial direction, which is VF. Okay. Now, see, we have the and we do have, see, we have some velocity in the axis. So you have something is the called, so I have shown in the pink color. So what I have is, in this, I have put a box. You have one component in the tangential direction, that is, it will be exactly acting as a tangent to this wheel. Okay. Then one will be in this direction, either it will be up or down, and other one will be in this direction. So you have three components of velocities. Okay, you have three components of velocity at any given point. Anyhow, see, your absolute velocity can come in like this or like this, whatever it may be. But with respect to your turbo machine, whenever I'm trying to analyze, I have to analyze it with respect to the tangential direction. That is, it is tangent to the wheel or in the radial direction or in the axial direction. So that's how I'm trying to analyze it. So similarly, I can analyze at the exit also. I have the velocity, world velocity or tangential component at the 2. So it's at the exit, I call it as 2. At the inlet, I'm calling it as 1. Or the low pressure side or at the high pressure side. So I do have how many components of velocity? So VW and V radial, and I have V axial. Okay. Now, this flow component I need to look at. See, this flow component I'm resolving it. Now, based on, see, I have the flow velocity and I have the world component. Anyway, this tangential component will remain actually. Now, where will this flow component will be there? Where my flow component will come? Say, this component of the velocity, how I'm going to get it? If it is the flow, see, if it is an axial flow machine, then if it is an axial flow machine, your radial component is 0. That is, whatever I'm showing in the black, no, this particular quantity will be 0. So I'm left with only axial component. Then this flow component will become automatically an axial component for the axial flow machine. Suppose if I'm dealing with a radial flow machine, what the radial flow machine means? In that radial flow machine, my axial component of velocity will be 0. I don't have anything in that direction. So this flow component automatically will become a radial component. And my axial flow machine and for a radial flow machine, it is the flow component, it is in which direction it is flowing. So axial flow machine, the flow component in the axis is in the axial direction. In the radial flow machine, the flow component is in the radial direction. And irrespective of this particular, whatever may be the thing, your tangential component is always tangent to the wheel. So if you're able to analyze this particular three components of velocities, you can easily draw the velocity triangles. So this is the basis for anything. So added to this actually, in the direction of VW, I do have U, because your the wheel also rotates at the tangential. So U and VW. So you have to always your VW and U are always tangential. VW and U are in tangential. They can be in the same direction or they can be in opposite direction. Fine. Depending upon the direction of rotation or depending upon whatever it may be. So now clearly you should understand that VW and U both are tangential forces or tangential velocity components, and your radial component and axial component comes into picture depending upon what type of turbo machine I'm trying to see. Radial turbine or radial maybe a turbine or radial compressor or a pump, but still only thing is the direction it matters. So in case of pump and compressor, fluid is going out, the direction will be upside towards upside from 1 to 2. If it's for a turbine, it will from outside to in. That's it. So I will be able to clearly analyze it. So one thing, if you look at it, if I try to draw the velocity triangle, so for a compressor or a pump, I will have a smaller velocity triangle at the inlet and a bigger velocity triangle at the outlet. And for a turbine, it will be outlet. At the inlet, I will have a bigger velocity triangle and I will be having the smaller velocity triangle at the outlet, because energy is getting absorbed. Here, the energy is getting added in case of a pump and compressor. Is that clear? Now, once you understand this, now let us try to derive it. What I have taken is I have taken a front view or meridional view, whatever it may be, I have taken it. Then at the inlet I have taken, so this is called as hub. So this is my hub, this is my tip, and these are the vanes or the blades what I have taken. Now what I have done is actually to the center point, I am trying to join. See, you are able to join the sea. You are able to, you have the velocity which is coming in. So this you have, see, this is my wheel. See, this is the wheel. Fine. Your u is always tangent to it. If it is inner, it will be u1. If it is outer, it will be u2. Is that clear? It's always tangent to like this. It's a tangential component, which are, you know that the formula is pi d n by 60 or 2 pi n by 6, 2 pi n into r by 60. You know that formula. Now, once I have that u, then how to get this particular thing? How to get the corresponding v or whatever it may be? So once you draw that, you try to join to the center. You try to join to the center, that is from the point to the center, from here to the center. You join this, then from the center you try to draw a perpendicular so that this angle and this angle is exactly 90 degrees, so that I get a triangle here. See, whatever the triangle I'm getting, so this is a triangle here. Now, once you get this triangle, okay, now you have the blade. See, you have this blade. You try to extend this blade. See, this is my relative component. So the relative component is always, we assume that yesterday I was telling about, there is something called as vane congruent flow. What is this vane congruent flow? The flow is attached to the vanes, that is relative, and it's a relative velocity. Why it is a relative velocity? It is because it is measured from the rotating reference plane. So when I try to measure it from the rotating reference plane, and it is along your maybe vane, what I call, so this is called as VR. So what will happen to VR at the inlet? It will be like this. So this will be VR1, this will be VR2. Fine. So here I have, so now fluid is just, see, this is U actually, as I told, that's how it is constructed. Let me tell clearly. So this is my, I will show for one, you people can do it for the other things. Okay, fine. This is my U, okay, let me call this as U, and my blades are going like this. Fine, this is my blade, and I can draw the VR like this. This is my VR. So what I will do, I will shift my VR to like this. So this becomes my, it is of same magnitude, VR1. Then this will be my U, V1, sorry. So now it follows the velocity triangle principle. I'm just drawing to a particular scale, that's it. But if you go by vector addition and subtraction principles, your V, VR and U, VR and U. V is equal to VR plus U. That principle automatically will come in any numerical or whatever it may be we are trying to solve. How it is solved, it is drawn. This is drawn in this way. Similarly, I can draw the VR toward the exit like this. And I can, this one, I can push it to this one. I can push it to here. Okay. This one I'm trying to draw here. I know the U. How to calculate U2 and U1? You know the formula. So you know that U is equal to pi d n by 60. If I want to calculate U1, I have to put U1. You want to find U2, it is U2 into pi d to n by 60. I'll get the corresponding magnitude in the direction. What will be the direction? Direction is always with this tangent to it. You got it? So direction is always tangent to your corresponding wheel, whatever we have. And if I want to draw at that particular inlet point, so you take this point. This is the point actually. This is your inlet and this is your exit. You are trying to draw the triangle. Now you got a concept how to draw this triangle, velocity triangle. Once you draw this triangle, anyhow, these triangles are very small for me to do an analysis. So what I have done is I have drawn the same triangle to the right hand side and showing you the all the angles. Fine. So now if I consider the inlet velocity triangle, what I have actually, I have my U1 and I have my V1 and I have my VR1. Fine. It looks V1 is all bigger, all those things, but I had zoomed it. That's it. Don't worry about it. If you draw to the scale, it will be a triangle only. So just for the explanation, I've drawn like this. Fine. Now I'm trying to resolve the components of velocity V1. So if I try to resolve it, I will have the horizontal component is VW1, and I have the your vertical component which is VF1, and I have alpha 1 which is the angle, which is the flow angle, that is which is the angle made by the fluid while entering your turbo machine. On other side I have the beta 1. So beta 1 is the angle measured by the blade with respect to a tangent drawn to your wheel actually. That means if this is my way blade angle, and at any given point, if this is my wheel, if I try to draw a tangent, I can measure it. So this is my beta 2 like that. So that's how you're going to measure it actually. So the angle measured by the vane or blade with respect to your tangent drawn to the wheel is your blade angle. So blade angle can be forward curved or radial curved or your backward curved, whatever it may be, that we are going to study in the coming chapters. Now I have these two velocity triangles. And how many velocity components I have? I have five velocity components. V, VW, VF, VR and U. So if it is at inlet, it is V1, VW1, VF1, U1 and VR1, and alpha 1 and beta 1, two angles. And what about at the outlet triangles? If I look at it, actually, I have V2, which is absolute velocity, VW2, VF2, U2, and VR2. I have so many five velocity triangles at the inlet, five velocity triangles. So this is the maximum what we can have. Depending upon the condition, say for example, if I tell flow is entering radially at the inlet, so one of the component will automatically VW1 become 0. So depending upon the conditions. So depending upon the conditions, one of the component can become 0 or maybe at the inlet or exit. But to satisfy all the conditions, I should ensure that your V1, VW1, VF1, U1 and VR1 are there, and alpha 1 and beta 1 is there. Okay. Now, you know that you have what is called as Newton's second law. That is your momentum equation. What is it actually? It's given by mass into acceleration. Okay. Mass into what is acceleration? It is dv by dt. Then look at this. dm by dt. What is it actually? This is rate of, see, this is a mass flow rate into dv. It is the change in velocity. So I am trying to convert m2, it's a simple mass flow, to mass flow rate. So dm by dt means this is actually, it is called as mass flow rate. And then what is dv? dv is the your change in velocity. So dv by dt is my acceleration, gv is the your change in velocity. Now look at this. What is the torque actually? So torque according to your momentum principle or mechanics, solid mechanics, is the whatever the force I'm going to apply into its displacement. It's not the distance is nothing, but this is, if you speak in terms of your momentum or your mechanics, it is your displacement. So displacement is nothing but distance covered. Fine. Now when I come back here, what is the mass? It's a first, see, I can write it as your mass flow rate. Fine. Your force is nothing but your mass flow rate. I'm trying to write here. So this is nothing but mass flow rate into dv. What is dv? It is v2 and v1. What are the distance actually? It is with respect to L2 and L1. Now, if you look at it, what is this actually? If you look at it, this is your length 2 and this is your length 1. What is this actually, length 1 and length 2? This is different from our radius 1 and radius 2. See, I do have radius R2 and R1. See, if you have this circle, so from the center, what I'm trying to measure, this is my R1 or R2. But at a given point, this is what I am looking at. Fine. At a perpendicular direction, at the perpendicular to that, actually, if I try to measure it, this is the distance what I am looking at. Are you getting? So that distance is your L or something. That is your perpendicular distance. I am trying to apply. See, you might have seen in your study flow, your SFD or BMD, the couple is with respect to the perpendicular direction. It is the shortest distance between this. It will be shorter than your radius. So, if I try to apply any force here, say for example, what is the force applied? If I apply any force here, okay, so what is the distance? If this is the force which I am going to apply, what is the distance? This is the distance. Force into this distance. Okay, that is your L2. That's what I am trying to explain. Your force into distance is your torque, what I am trying to apply. So here, what's happening here? There is a torque between your two hub and tip. So that's why the mass flow rate into your velocity. See, outer to inner. That is outer I have higher velocity, inner I have lower velocity. That's why it is V2 into L2 minus V1 into L1. Okay. Now go back and see this particular, this triangle. Let me call this is L2, R2 and okay. You have this triangle, something like this. You have this triangle. Let me take this triangle. Okay, this is your R2, this is your L2, fine. And what I can do actually, now what is your L2? So L2 or L1 is nothing but, if this is my angle, if I try to take this as alpha, what is your cos alpha? Cos alpha is equal to your adjacent side divided by your hypotenuse, that is your R. I can write cos alpha 1 is equal to L1 by R1 and cos alpha 2 is equal to L2 by R2. Agree? Or L1 is equal to R1 cos alpha, L2 is equal to R2 cos alpha 2. So I will try to replace your L2 and L1 by your R2 cos alpha and R1 sin alpha. Okay. Now, what is your cos alpha 1? If I try to take this triangle, if I try to take this triangle, or the same thing I am trying to show here, fine. So what is cos alpha 1? Cos alpha 1 is equal to your VW1 divided by V1. Fine. Or I can write your V1 cos alpha 1 as VW1 and V1 cos alpha 1 as VW1, V2 cos alpha 1 as VW2. Fine. So here if you look at it, I can write VW1 is equal to V1 cos alpha 1. Here I can write V2 is equal to, sorry, VW2 is equal to this. I can write VW2 is equal to V2 cos alpha 2. So what I am trying to do, I will retain as it is, R2 as it is. I will write V2 cos alpha 2 as VW2 and V1 cos alpha 1 as VW1. So this has become, my torque has become mass flow rate into VW1 into R2, so VW2 into R2 minus VW1 into R1. Now this equation depends on what type of machine it is. If it's for a compressor, where the energy at the outlet is more compared to inlet, that is, it becomes VW2 into R2 minus VW1 into R1. If it's a turbine, what will happen? This will become VW1 into R1 minus VW2 into R2. How the energy flow takes place, I can write this equation. If they clearly tell that same steps you people can follow, if they tell you, come on, obtain the expression for Euler equation for a turbine, where you are putting higher, that is 1, and where you are putting 2, you should be able to clearly define it and do the derivation. That's it. Now, if the friction, see, what we try to do whenever we have the turbo machines, we see that the friction is almost negligible. That's the ideal condition. If the friction is negligible, what is my power generation or what is your energy per unit mass? So those things all we have to look at. So power is nothing but your mass flow rate, that is your torque into omega, or 2 pi n by 60. So what we will write actually, your mass flow rate into Vw2 into R2 minus Vw1 into R1 into omega. Okay. Now you know that in your vibrations or in your dynamics of machines, you might have studied u is equal to your linear velocity omega, u is equal to your tangential omega into r. So omega r, you know that formula. So what I will do actually, if omega remains same, omega, there is nothing called as omega 1 and omega 2. Omega, that is 2 pi n by 60, is the same for the whole turbo machine. I can write omega into R2 as U2. Okay. Omega 2 omega into R2 as U2. Omega into R1 as U1. Okay. Omega into R1 as U1. So my formula becomes, for power it is mass flow rate is equal into Vw2 into U2 minus Vw1 into U1. This is the formula for your power generation. Now, but in most of the Euler equation, what we try to do actually, we'll try to express in terms of unit mass flow rate or energy specific work, blade specific work, or vane specific work for vane congruent flow. That what I will do, we try to move this mass flow rate below this, so that I call that as W blade. Fine. So W blade or specific work or blade specific work will be equal to power by mass flow rate, which is equal to Vw2 into U2 minus Vw1 into U1. That is energy per unit mass flow rate. Suppose sometimes we have to express in terms of unit weight, then it is divided by mass flow rate into G. So whole thing will be Vw2 into U2 minus Vw1 into U1 by G. So this becomes the simplest form of expressing the Euler equation, in terms of whole velocity and your peripheral blade velocity. So suppose if it is for a turbine, what will happen? This formula can be written as Vw1 into U1 minus Vw2 into U2. You have to be very careful how you are writing it. So same turbo machine or same Euler equation can be written for pump and compressor and for the and for a turbine. So W is equal to Vw2 into U2 minus Vw1 into U1, or Vw1 into U1 minus Vw2 into U2, depending upon whether it's a pump or a compressor or for a turbine. Okay, this is your general expressions what we have. Now let us look at this actually. There are few things let us try to discuss. See, your specific work is independent of the density of the fluid. If you look at the expression here, there is no density. So specific work irrespective of the turbo machine. So whether it is a hydraulic turbo machine or whether it is a steam turbine or a gas turbine will remain same. Specific work, because once I multiply your specific work by mass flow rate of that particular machine, I will get its rated power. If I try to tell that the specific power for a given turbo machine, whatever may be the working fluid, it remains same. This may be one of the maybe your quiz question, something if you taking gate and all, they may ask the specific power for a turbo machine will remain same or will change and all. So you people assume this as a power and you will write it. But specific power will remain same because the density of the fluid doesn't change. So because of this, actually the fluid viscosity, you see, viscosity effects is almost negligible. If you don't neglect it, if you almost neglect it actually, then this number will remain same. Okay. Now, there are certain cases, special cases are there. As axial flow machine, I told, in case of an axial flow machine, yesterday I was showing that we try to cut open along the circumference. So if that is the case, we try to take the mean diameter. So when I go for a mean diameter, so U1 and U2 will be same because it is pi dm, that is mean diameter n by 60. It is neither outer diameter nor inner diameter. So both your peripheral velocities u1 and u2 will remain same because it is along your mean diameter. It is along the mean diameter. I'm going to calculate the peripheral velocity along the mean diameter. Okay. And also, there are machines where at the inlet, there are no whirl velocity, there are no tangential component because the flow directly enters the machine. Okay, the flow directly enters the machine. Or for this condition, whenever you have, so your maybe I call it as beta 1, not beta 2, your beta 1. So, okay, VW1 is 0 almost. So, your beta 1 will be 90 degrees. Then what will happen? Automatically, this particular formula VW2 into U2 minus VW1 is 0. So, this formula just simply becomes VW1, VW2 into U2. So, VW2 into U2. No, for this case, if you look at it very closely, I will get a triangle. See, I will get a triangle. So maybe this may be one of the condition. So beta, let's assume beta 2. So that means I will have your beta 2. Let me draw this. Your beta 2 is okay. This is my beta 2. This is my alpha 2. This is my V2. This is my U2 and your this is my VW2 or VW2 0, whatever it may be. So let me call this as VW2 is equal to 0. If my VW2 is equal to 0 or VW1 is equal to, depends upon the condition, whether it's an inlet or exit, whatever it may be, my triangle will be a simple right angle triangle. So this is a, a right angled. It depends on whether it is at VW1 is equal to 0, beta 1 will be 0. If it is VW2 is equal to 0, beta 2 will be 0. So depending upon what type of machine it is, a compressor or a pump or a turbine. So whether your VW2 is at 0 means at the exit it is 0. VW1 is 0 means at the inlet it is 0. So the whole components can be 0 at the inlet or it can be 0 at the exit. So for most of the, when you are solving the compressor problems or pump problems, we go with VW1 is equal to, that is, there are no whirl, there are no pre-whirl or no whirl conditions at the inlet, and at the exit, there are no whirl for the turbines. Okay. Now, when I'm dealing with the, if the density changes are negligible, so then we simply put the formula what you studied in your fluid mechanics, that is pressure change by density. So pressure change by density, if I put it, I will get directly the work actually. Anyhow, this kind of machines we hardly use in this particular in your course. But still, let us know that if the density change, because density changes always will be there, the density changes are negligible. It's simply change in pressure for a given density. That's it. So that will be your simple formula. Okay. Now some extra information I have given over here. It's optional. You can read it actually if possible. You can read it actually. So what will happen to the sizes, what will happen to the rotation, all the things. Anyway, I'm going to share the notes. That is extra information. So there is something called as alternate form of deriving the energy equation. What is it actually alternate form? Alternate form means writing the equation in absolute components, your relative components and your tangential component, that is your u. Writing your original your Euler equation, which is the in terms of whirl component and your tangential component in other components. So now to do this actually I am going to take one triangle. I am going to take a triangle. So this is the, it can be inlet or whatever it may be. So now if I try to look at this triangle, what is the cosine rule? The cosine rule tells that here VR square, see look at this, VR square is equal to just opposite to that. Say I am trying to go with respect to alpha. Look at this. See how this formula works. You have this alpha opposite to that. I am trying to look at that particular vector VR square is equal to V square, fine, V square and this component which is U. Okay, this component which is u. Okay, Vr square plus u square minus of 2 times your two that do both the components into its cos maybe its horizontal component of it, that is your cos alpha. That's how it is the cosine angle. If you want look at in any trigonometric relations book, I think you'll be able to get the derivation of it. So Vr square is equal to V1 C. If I try to put it at exit, it will be Vr2 square is equal to V2 square plus U2 square minus 2 times V2 into U2 into cos alpha 2. If I try to put it at inlet, this will be Vr1 square is equal to V1 square plus U1 square minus 2 into V1 into U1 into cos alpha 1. Okay. Now, if I try to apply this at condition, that is suction and pressure side, that is at both inlet and exit, if I try to put it and take the difference of it. So what I am trying to do, Vr1 square minus Vr2 square is equal to, I am trying to write V1 square minus V2 square plus U1 square minus U2 square minus of 2 into V1 into U1 into cos alpha 1 minus of minus which is plus, which is 2 into V2 into U2 into cos alpha 2. And then I'm trying to simplify the same thing to the taking to the right hand side or left hand. So I'm going to get V2 into U2 into cos alpha minus V1 into U1 into cos alpha 1 is equal to V2 square minus V1 square plus U2 square minus U1 square plus Vr1 square minus Vr2 square whole thing by 2. Now, what is this V2 into cos alpha 2? What is V1 into cos alpha 1? This is VW2. So, this is VW1, which already we have seen cos alpha 1 is equal to, fine, cos alpha 1 is equal to VW1 by, so your VW1, actually VW by V1. So now I'm going to write this as VW2 into U2 minus VW1 into U1, and to the right hand side I'm writing all the components. And what is this actually? This is your blade work done or specific work done. So that I'm writing it as is equal to V2 square minus V1 square plus U2 square minus U1 square plus VR1 square minus VR2 square by 2. This is called as alternate form of your Euler equation. Or if I try to write separately, if I try to write all the components separately, what this will be? V2 square minus V1 square by 2 plus U2 square minus U1 square by 2 plus VR1 square minus VR2 square by 2. So this is for maybe a pump or a compressor. What will happen if it is for a turbine? Everything gets reversed. This will be the same formula. I can write it as V1 square minus V2 square by 2, U1 square minus U2 square by 2 plus VR2 square minus VR1 square by 2. I am trying to get an expression, mathematical expression in terms of energy levels or head or the first component. If you look at it, B1 square or V2 square, if you look at it, V square means those things clearly indicate with respect to kinetic energy. And now you have U2 square or U2 square minus U1 square by 2. What is that actually? And that energy is mainly because of centrifugal effects. And then what is VR1 square minus VR square? Those things are the energy R, which is mainly because of the relative velocity. Okay. And both these components 2 and 3 will lead to increase in static energy. Both your centrifugal energy or centrifugal fluid movement or centrifugal effect energy as well as the kind of change in kinetic energy due to relative velocity will lead to what is called as static energy improvement or static energy increase. That is not a part of kinetic energy. So what we have only for the kinetic energy, it's only V1 square minus V2 square by 2 in case of a turbine, or V2 square minus V1 square by 2 if it's in case of a compressor or a pump. Is that clear? Now, so what I have done is actually maybe the next part of your notes, what I have is what are these actually components of energy transfer, how those two components are static in rise. So 2 pages I have written in detail. So just go through this actually. What I will do, so I'll try to explain this. See what will happen in case of a turbine. It is VW1 into U1 minus VW2 into U2. So whatever I try to write for whatever I wrote for a compressor for a pump, I am writing it for a turbine. So if it is for a turbine, if it is for radial turbine, let's take it. V1 square minus V2 square by 2 plus U1 square minus U2 square by 2 plus VR2 square minus VR1 square by 2. Radial turbine. What about for axial turbine? For an axial turbine, you have U1 and U2 both are same. So then your whole your blade equation or your Euler equation will become V1 square minus V2 square by 2 plus VR2 square minus VR1 square by 2. Okay. This is about your Euler's energy equation. Is that clear?
Yes.
Any clarifications on that? I'm trying to give some extra information. Those you people can read actually. What do you mean by reaction, all those things and all. But now, the next component, what we are supposed to discuss will be, what do you mean by degree of reaction? See, as I told, we do have the static component of the energy. That means what are the static component of energy right now we derived? It is the centrifugal energy and your relative component of energy. Then what is your total energy? Your centrifugal energy, your relative component of energy as well as kinetic energy. So in total energy you have three components. In static energy you have only two components. But in case of axial flow machine, even the kinetic energy component is also missing. If I try to take the ratio of it, so it is the ratio of energy transfer mainly due to reaction to, that is mainly due to static energy or static enthalpy change or static energy change to total energy change in terms of steam turbines or gas turbines. Or if I take for any other turbo machine, if I speak in terms of energy, it is the ratio of your static energy to the total energy. So if I want to write this is your original Euler equation. This is your Euler equation which already we have derived. Fine. Now I can write the same thing in terms of, this is also this is an alternate form. This is your alternate form. So someone asks you, obtain the or write the expression for degree of reaction, means this is what we are supposed to. This is your starting point. Now there are a number of cases. See, you have this particular thing. What about your degree of reaction for a compressor? I have to write it as U2 square minus U1 square plus VR1 square minus VR2 square by 2 divided by V2 square minus V1 square by 2 plus U2 square minus U1 square by 2 plus VR1 square minus VR2 square by 2. So all the expressions, it is always higher energy minus lower energy. Fine. Turbine, at the inlet I have high energy, and for a compressor or a pump I have high energy at the outlet. See, I have written something over here where, suppose if R is equal to 0 and R is equal to 1, what will happen? You take this expression and put R is equal to 0. What will happen if I put R is equal to 0? All these components in the denominator will become 0. And if I take for an axial flow, see R is equal to 1, degree of reaction is equal to 1. If I put it, then both the things will just simply cancel out. I am left with only this component, that is V1 square minus V2 square by 2, which is equal to 0. These are some notable cases which you can just simply doing some cross multiplication, you can verify it. See, what do you mean by R is equal to 0? And what do you mean by R is equal to 1? See, R is equal to 0 means I don't have any static energy, enthalpy change or static energy. So everything is kinetic energies. So all your impulse machines like Pelton wheel or D-level turbine, what we see in steam turbines actually, those turbines work on your impulse or tangential, or we call it as impulse machine or tangential machines. And there are machines where you have a complete static energy, which is impossible to build. What we have is actually we have 50% degree of reaction or 60% degree of reaction, where you have 50 or 60% in the static component and another 40 or 50% in case of maybe which may be kinetic energy component. So you have R is varying from, see, R is varying from 0 to 1. So this is pure impulse. This is complete pure reaction turbine. So very difficult to have a pure reaction, but you can have a pure impulse turbine. So what we have is we will have something reactions, even though R is equal to 0.1, 0.2 also, we call it a reaction turbine. So depending upon the number, if it is 0.5, we call it a 50% degree of reaction turbine, or 60% reaction turbine is what we are going to call actually. So I have written few cases. One such case is R is equal to 0. This is the Pelton wheel. Look at this, the Pelton wheel. You have something called as a bucket or something, deflection angle you can see. So that's the best example. So just this for understanding. So if it's R is equal to 0, so you might have seen that sprinkler on your lawn or something. It doesn't do any work and all, but still it simply sprinkles. And just works on only based on only your reactions actually. There I don't have any kinetic energy. I will have only the your static energies which comes into principle. So sprinkler can't be a turbine, no? Sprinkler, even though your lawn sprinkler, what we see, even though it works on a complete reaction, so that's around 0.99 or 1 or nearly 1, so but it can't be a turbine. So if it has to be a turbine, this number should be between R and 1, so 0 and 1. So pure reaction machine, pure impulse machine, and in between have the reaction turbo machines. So is that clear? Okay. So we'll discuss on one more factor. So what is called as utilization factor. If I take a turbine, so the fluid will have certain amount of energy at the inlet. So what amount of fluid is utilized? What is the amount of conversion I'm going to do? So based upon this, I can call this as energy utilized to energy available. So EU, see, the fluid will enter with velocity V1. So fluid will enter with the velocity V1. So to be very precise, if all the energy has been converted, then your V2 should be 0. But in case of a turbine, in case of most of the turbines, we can't have a 0 velocity. We see that velocity, there will be a negligible or there will be a small velocity at the exit. So your V2 square by 2 is the energy which is not utilized. That means there is a loss. So what is the energy utilized actually? It is energy, see this is the energy available, which is your V1 square by 2. That is what just now we got a expression. Okay, V1 square by 2 plus U1 square minus U2 square plus VR2 square minus VR1 square. Okay, VR2 square minus VR1 square by 2. This is the energy available minus V2 square by 2, which is energy which is not utilized. If I try to take the ratio of it, this is your actual energy and this is your ideal energy. This is actual which is able to utilize it. This is ideal which is should have been utilized it. If that is the case, if actual and ideal are same, then your epsilon will be 1. That means I have 100% utilization. But what we try to do actually, we will try to reach 1. So if that is the case, your epsilon also very similar to your degree of reaction. This number should be equal to 1. So what we try to do is we want this number to be as close as possible. 0.98, 0.95. A well designed or a good designed turbine will have a utilization factor of 95%. So 95% of the energy that is available at the blade is utilized or able to convert it. Fine. Now, this is what we have. So, what I try to do actually, try to simplify the same thing and trying to get it, that's it. So, try to show that I want to write in terms of Euler expression. So, the denominator I'm trying to add your V2 square by 2. So, this expression I can write it as VW2 into VW1 into U1 minus VW2 into, just to get an expression, that's it. But what we can clearly tell that from the utilization factor is something which clearly indicates that how much of energy I am able to utilize to how much of energy which is available at the maybe turbine or blade, inlet or whatever it may be. Okay. Now, we will do this derivation and we'll try to end. There is a relationship between this degree of reaction and utilization factor. So, anyhow, this is a simple derivation. So, if I write the expression for the R, if I try to simplify it, I am trying to get most of the steps are self-explanatory. Now, if I try to look at it, I have this component. See, this component, if you look at it, this is your static energy. Fine. See, simple. You take the expression for the R and try to obtain the expression for static energy in terms of kinetic energy. This is your multiplied by degree of reaction. Simple thumb rule. Static energy expressed in terms of kinetic energy multiplied by degree of reaction. Now, you write your static energy in terms of degree of reaction and kinetic energy in your epsilon or utilization factor expression. So, this is your static energy. The static energy is replaced by your kinetic energy and your degree of reaction. That's all. So, you do the same thing in your numerator and denominator and try to simplify. If I try to simplify, I am going to get the relationship between your epsilon and R. This is a thumb rule which you have to follow when you are doing the derivation. First, take the degree of reaction, express the static energy in terms of kinetic energy and degree of reaction, substitute for the static energy in terms of kinetic and degree of reaction in your utilization factor expression and try to simplify it. You will be getting the epsilon, that is your as a function of your V1, V2 and R. So, expressing the utilization factor as a function of both the absolute velocity components and R. So, you be very clear with this. V1 square minus V2 square divided by V1 square minus R into V2 square. Now, if you closely observe this equation 4, if my R is equal to 0, what will happen? If R is equal to 0, what will happen? V1 square minus V2 square by 2, V1 square minus V2 square by V1 square. 1 minus V2 square by V1 square. If epsilon, see, if R is equal to 0, if R is equal to 1, I will get an expression. If R is equal to 0, I will be getting V1 square minus V2 square by, so I will be having only pure kinetic energies. If R is equal to 1, then your utilization factor is almost 1, which is impossible. So, having R is equal to 1 and getting utilization factor is equal to 1, which I told is a Lance sprinkler. So, where R is equal to 1, which is impossible, which is not possible. So, we can't have a turbo machine with the R is equal to 1. So, what is the possible case? Any R is equal to 0, fine, I am going to get a kinetic energy. So, what is the possible case? Having an epsilon between 0 and 1. So, now, if I try to vary the epsilon, epsilon can be varied by varying exit velocity V2 from the fixed value of R. So, if I try to vary the epsilon 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, if I try to find it actually, then for a given value of R and keep my vicinity. I don't want to change with the velocity v1. See, v1 may be the velocity with which the fluid is entering, and if I want to utilize 90%, I want to utilize 100%, I can control the v2, and I can get an optimized value of v2. I can get the minimum value of v2. So an optimized value of epsilon can be obtained with the minimal value of V2 for a given degree of reaction. So this expression, no, that's the significance of this expression. If you're able to understand the significance of this expression, that is getting the or optimal value of your epsilon for a minimal value of your V2. If you're able to do that for a degree of reaction 0.5 or 0.6 or 0.7, fix my R value, then try to get the minimum value of V2 for a given optimal value of epsilon. Okay, if I am able to get it, that's how you call it as optimizing your utilization factor. Or if I want to make that optimizing means it's a maximizing. So that's how you have a derivation is there. Condition for maximum utilization factor. That means what I need to do, I need to push this V2 in such a way that this has to be minimal. If I try this to minimal, what will happen to your alpha 2? Alpha 2 will become almost, it becomes 90. See, your V2 is minimum at alpha 2 is equal to 90 degrees. So under this condition, what type of triangle I'm going to get? I'm going to get this type of triangle. That means this is an epsilon max means whatever I was speaking, that is the optimal value. And you have the minimum value of V2. So V2 is minimized. How I can maximize my utilization of a given turbo machine or given turbine means you have to minimize your V2 or exit value. You can't make it 0. See, it's clear that I can't have it 0, but I can minimize it. Is it, say, for a 0.1, 0.2, 0.3? So 0.1, is it possible to achieve? So for a minimum value of V2, you will be getting the maximum or optimized value of your epsilon max. What will happen if it is case